Now, we haven't really talked about what the challenges were setting up Leadership Long Beach. It seemed that there's quite a demand. Obviously, you had more than 100 people interested in participating, but obviously with any program that you're setting up, there are challenges. Can you speak to some of those?
Well, the initial challenge was that we knew that there would be some businesses that would fund it. And originally, when we got the sponsors that helped, I think everybody put in $5,000. They were allowed to have one person from their company. But there was also going to be a lot of nonprofits and people who would not be able to afford it. So we needed scholarships. And I think Gayle mentioned that she had somebody who helped.
The Junior League were sponsored, both Judy Ross and I.
Yeah. So when we first started, would we be able to raise the money? And to our surprise, it was easier than we thought it would be.
Wow.
It was because I think most people thought that the program itself, they would give it a shot and see whether or not it was worthwhile.
Great. Did you see any challenges in terms of after your graduation from the program and continuing your involvement? What were some of the challenges?
Well, there were, I mean, of course, it's always involving, but there were years that we didn't have that kind of response to be members of the class that we'd had in the beginning, but that kind of comes and goes, and we had to continue to explain to the public, people that we drew from, that our definition of leadership, that this was, you didn't come and learn time management in Leadership Long Beach, but you learned to be a better community a participator in Long Beach, the community of Long Beach. And we also needed to define that we weren't talking about just emerging leaders, but we were talking about people who were in a leadership role, that sphere of influence could be huge and it could be small, and the fact that we were in that position didn't necessarily mean we understood about leadership principles and the highest standard of leadership.
Perfect.
And I was always happy to point out some instances when that was absolutely true.
We originally wrestled with how many for-profit participants and nonprofit participants should be in there. And the feeling was always that it needed at least 50% participants from for-profit businesses.
Were government employees involved in the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They were there, but they were there. They were there like any other what we would call nonprofit participants.
Okay. How would you say has the program structure and elements of Leadership Long Beach changed today since the beginning? Can you speak to that?
Well, I can't really, but I know, I'm looking this morning when we got here, I'm looking at the kind of records that they're keeping, in a magazine of each class. Mm-hmm. They're doing a really great job of keeping the history so that it can be shared with the beginning. We're beginning to have elements that allow us to unify the classes from 90 to today. I'm not sure how much we're using those, but there's been a lot of refinement, and there's always work. They rewrite the mission periodically, but it stays within the same framework that it was in the beginning. Okay. The classes, they've just gone through strategic planning and setting goals and looking at the board structure. In the last 4 years, they've really refined that. So I think it's continuing to grow and move. I think it's they're using everything and things that we didn't even think of or have. Because what we were looking at was the beginning. It's like Peter said, you don't want to do too much, mm-hmm. but now we're able to build on what was started, and I think it's growing, and I feel good about it. I feel good about the organization, but any organization has ups and downs, and the money is always hard to come by, but we have a lot more alumni that we can reach out to for money to support the program.
Great. And this question is for both of you. Do you feel the need, that there is a need today for leadership and leadership training as strong as it was when you started in Leadership Long Beach?
Absolutely.
Oh, I feel that absolutely, and I think maybe more than ever. because we have all kinds of examples of people that didn't take this class and they don't know what principal leadership looks like leading us. You know, we see evidence of that, so I think this can't ever not be something that's important.
And I think as our whole society has evolved, we are now not just a community made up of individuals who live here. Now you have the internet, and you have drastically different interests of people. We are just a small microcosm of the whole world. And today, and in those days, we were much more insulated. So I think it's even more important to make sure that people want to get involved in the community.
And our community has grown. I mean, what we say is community has grown. You know, the borders of Long Beach have, broken down, so we reach further and they reach us.
And it's much more diverse. As I look at the pictures of the first class, there were about 3 or 4 African Americans. There were some Asian, maybe 5 African Americans, a number of Asians, and some Latinos. And our community today is over 50% people of color. So it's not just the white males and females that were predominant in 1989, the first class.
Sure, so it's more reflective of today's demographics.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or is there any sort of closing remark that you'd like to offer? Any sort of maybe promotion for the program and future leaders in Long Beach?
I would just encourage people who have an interest in their community to find out more about Leadership Long Beach and get involved.